Welcome to day 31 and another one of my favorite topics. Today we're going to talk more about the difference between results reactors and results creators. And this is the key distinction that I want to make for today. Results reactors view the world as a zero-sum game. I'll explain what that means in a moment. Results creators realize that there's such a thing as enlightened self-interest, and that's what they practice, as opposed to viewing the world as a zero-sum game. So let me give you an example of how this works. Now, first of all, let me tell you what a zero-sum game is. A zero-sum game, I first learned that when I was in college, and I was taking this international relations, global theory course. And it was awesome, and also kind of boring, but also awesome. And I remember my professor talking about this idea that existed, let's say, during the times of the Cold War, right? If America wins, Russia or USSR loses. If the USSR wins, America loses. And many times, global relations are viewed in this way. That if one nation wins, the other must lose because one of them won, and vice versa. Now, this happens in our lives all the time. How often do you view somebody else's success and go, welcome, they're succeeding and I'm not. Like, if they did that thing and they're the ones that got the raise and I didn't, they won and I lost. Or, have you been on the flip side? And you get the raise, you get the promotion, you get the whatever accolades, and you go, look at me, look at my accolades. What did you get? Oh, nothing. Punk. You ever done that? Maybe you didn't say punk. But that is a zero-sum game. If I win, you lose. Both of our candles cannot burn at the same time. I must blow yours out so that mine can burn. Or you may have to blow mine out so yours can burn. They're not allowed to burn together. That's a zero-sum game. Results reactors look at the world as a zero-sum game. But not creators, not results creators. Results creators practice one of my favorite things, which is called enlightened self-interest. Now notice, you're still allowed to be self-interested, but you're going to do it in a way that's a little bit more enlightened. Let me describe how this works. Enlightened self-interest is you do things for other people that helps them win. There's a great book called Uncontainable that talks about a philosophy that belonged to Andrew Carnegie, who, was massively successful. And the store chain, the Container Store, have this philosophy, and Andrew Carnegie had this philosophy, and it's this idea that you fill up the other guy's basket. One of my favorite books in the world, as you probably well know, is The Go-Giver, and Bob Burg talks about give more value than you ask for in return. We've already talked about this. So when you're filling up the other guy's basket or giving more than you're asking for in return, on paper that may not make sense, right? You're like, wait a second, if I'm giving more than I'm taking, is that really a fair transaction? If it's a zero-sum game, it's not a fair transaction. They're winning, you're losing. If you're practicing enlightened self-interest, this is how it works. If I can serve as much as possible, do as much as possible, it's going to benefit me. In some way, it's going to loop around, it's going to come back. I don't have to be attached to how it's going to come back. I just know that it's going to. So therefore, I'm going to serve you and do good things for you and provide value because I know it's going to come back to me. Here's an example of this, right? If you and I were in a conversation and you said, I have money to buy one book, guess what? I'm not going to tell you to buy my book. I'm going to tell you to buy Bob Burg's book and John David Mann called The Go-Giver because that book's changed my life. Now, that may seem like, wait a second, you had money for one book. Why would I refer you to another book rather than mine? Here's the reason. If I refer you to that book, I understand that you're going to get a lot of good out of that. That's all I need to know. Now, what if you went to Bob and you said, hey, Kevin referred me to your book. And Bob goes, man, that Kevin is something else. That is really cool. And then I get an email from Bob and he says, wow, you referred another person to my book. Thank you so much, Kev. That's really cool because Bob and I happen to be friends. And then he says, I'd really love to have you on my podcast. This is a real life experience. I've referred that book to so many people because I feel like it's blessed my life and it's blessed so many others that Bob and I have created this relationship and he's now promoting my book. Not because I asked him to, because I practice enlightened self-interest. Because I don't view it as a zero-sum game. If I'm promoting his book, mine cannot be promoted. I promote his book and do good for him and he in turn feels a desire to do good for me. And I understand that by promoting his book, it will, in the long run, benefit me. That is enlightened self-interest. So here's what I want you to do today, okay? I want you to selflessly do something for someone, Okay? Like we've talked about before, whether it's buying them lunch or whatever it is, right? Selflessly do something for somebody else, but after you do that thing, I want you to make a list of all the ways it benefited you, even though you did it for them. So if you did buy a stranger lunch, how did it make you feel? Enlightened self-interest. When you think about what it could have done for them, it helps you feel good, enlightened self-interest. Okay? If it kept you from spending extra money on that Frosty that saved you some calories because you were going to spend a little money on the person behind you, enlightened self-interest, right? Here's the deal. If you will go selflessly do something for somebody, after you do it, without any attachment to what it's going to mean for you, just do it. But once it's done, sit back, pause, consider how it did in fact benefit you. When you will look at the world this way, you will start to see results created left and right because you're practicing enlightened self-interest. One of my favorite topics, super pumped to be able to talk about it today. We'll see you tomorrow.